Alright, these video series, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, more about my personal life, just to share with you more about myself, to have you understand me more, so that maybe you could gain more of what I'm trying to do, as far as exposing, making videos, and sharing my martial art and stuff like that. Okay, so it's going to be a series of videos. It's probably going to be over 10 minutes long, so this will be part 1, part 2, maybe part 3, because I'm going to go from beginning to end. Alright, just so you know a little bit more about me. Alright, let me see. I was born here in Chicago. Alright, my parents were born in Hong Kong, both of them. So they immigrated over here, and I was born over here. I have one sister, who's older than me. She's 5 years older than me. Right now, I'm 28 years old. And so I was born here, and I learned. So my parents are Chinese descent. They speak Cantonese, and I was raised to speak some Cantonese, but as I got to integrated into school, I learned English. So I fell away from my culture and my language when I went to school, and people were speaking English, and actually people were kind of, I guess, people were seeing me as different. So I remember there'd be somebody that actually would make fun of the way I looked or just about my language. So at that point when I was little, I would kind of deny my own culture, my own language, and I stopped being proud of being Chinese. I was more wanting to be more accepted by those around me. So that's when I started going away from my own culture, my own language. So I didn't connect back with my culture until way later. I'll explain that, how it goes. But so then that's how I started off. I was born here, so that's why my English is, I lived my whole life speaking English. As far as speaking Cantonese, I could barely speak it. I mean, I could speak it a little bit. I could understand it more than I could understand it when I hear it a lot more than I could speak it. But if you put me in China right now, I have a very difficult time assimilating. Okay. I wish I did know the language more. I wish that I could read and write, Chinese, but I can't. So that's what happened, when you're in between two different cultures, and you're basically a minority or immigrant, whatever, and you're coming into this, in America, you have to adapt, and that's what I did. I learned to adapt. So I grew up that way. I lived, in Skokie most of my life, which is in, right nearby Chicago. So I grew up, I think at the age of 5, I started playing baseball. I really liked watching the Cubs and stuff like that. So I would watch the Cubs, and I think one of my favorite players was like Andre Dawson. So I played baseball and tried to get good at it from 5 years old to 9 years old. So for 4 years I played baseball. And then at 9 years old, I got inspired by Michael Jordan. So I started watching a lot of basketball games with the Bulls. And I got really inspired by Michael Jordan to the point where I tried to emulate him. And I wanted to play basketball like him, wear his clothes, wear his shoes, eat his ice cream, just do everything Michael Jordan did. I tried to play basketball like him, and I got pretty good I started at age 9. So I was pretty good, compared to a lot of people, in my neighborhood. But the thing is, I was more of a one-on-one player, because I played a lot of basketball in my backyard. So I was more of a one-on-one player, like a half-court player, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. But when it came to full court, I wasn't as good, because I didn't practice that much in full court. I was only practicing mainly in half court. And another thing is, my height was pretty much this. I was grown. You know, around the same height of the people in my age group. So that kept me. I was at a higher level than most people, and I was pretty good because most of the people around my height, and so I kept playing. I kept trying to get better and better, and then later on, everybody started growing taller and taller, and I just kept kind of staying around the same height, and so it made it more difficult for me to be successful in that sport. But nevertheless, I still trained pretty hard. But I think one of the main reasons why I didn't succeed as much as I wanted to was because I wasn't training the right ways. I was kind of emulating the wrong um, player. Like Michael Jordan, the way that he played, he was a shooting guard. He was 6'6", and the way that he played was not really would be he was a great player obviously, but it wasn't something that I should have emulated. Now that I think back, I probably should have emulated somebody like a point guard, like Allen Iverson or somebody, or somebody who would work on defense more and work on um, passing the ball around, work on my speed, work on my dribbling more, work on my shooting more. If I would have concentrated on more of those aspects of where I could have turned those strengths into, greater strengths, I think I would have been a better basketball player. But because I was concentrating on the wrong things, one of the things that I mainly concentrated on was jumping high. I'd constantly training my calf muscles and my thigh muscles so I could jump higher. And I wanted to grab the rim and stuff, and I wanted to drive to the basket all the time, shoot, get high scoring. So it was basically just not the correct focus, and that prevented me from progressing. And also, just because I wasn't that used to playing full court, that also prevented me from progressing. So it was just weird. I noticed in my mentality that a lot of times when it came to competition, as far as you know, when you're at, say I'm in a tournament and I'm playing for the championship, for some reason, every single time, no matter what, something ends up happening, going wrong, and then we end up getting second place or something like that. So it was just weird, with my whole basketball year. So I played basketball from the age of 9 until 17, and the reason why I ended up stopping is because I tried out for the basketball team, and I just didn't make it, and it was just it was heartbreaking at the time, and because it was just weird because a lot of people that made the team, I played with them at the park and I would do really well against them. But then when it came to tryouts, I just couldn't perform. I just didn't understand why. So throughout my whole life, it was just weird like that. Like when it came to competition, it was just something that always held me back from performing to my greatest. No matter if it's video games or basketball or cards or whatever it was. It's just something, my mental state wasn't really built for competition. So, that kind of shaped my philosophy as far as my martial art is concerned as well. So that happened. I did make the team. So then at the age of 17, my mother knew somebody from Chinatown that instructed martial arts, and his name was Sam Ing. All right, and he had a son. His son's name was Philip Ing, and basically they took me in under their wing and taught me martial arts for a period of 2 years. And the great thing about it was they taught me martial arts for free, and it was like personal instruction, very one-on-one based, and the class, I would get full attention, and I would be able to progress very quickly because of that. And I might have trained with them maybe twice a week, at least once a week. And because of my prior training in martial arts, I was already athletic. So because I was training, I played baseball since the age of 5, then I started playing basketball from the age of 9 until 17. I mean, my body was already athletic. So when I went to martial arts,